Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is another ear tutorial, but for the first time in a long time, this ear tutorial is a set of ears I actually made for myself. So most of the ears that I've been making lately are for other people. They're either for my Etsy shop, or they are for Year of the Ear Swap, or they're for a friend's birthday or something like that. And I was thinking about it and I realized that I hadn't made myself a set of ears in a very long time, so I decided to make these. These are Hollywood Tower of Terror inspired, Hollywood Tower Hotel or Tower of Terror inspired ears. Tower of Terror is my favorite ride at Hollywood Studios, and I say that with like a grain of salt because I also really love Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but I do think that this ride is my favorite. So part of the reason I was inspired to make these is because I made a set of ears for someone in Year of the Ear that were People Mover inspired, and I'm not sure if this video is going to go up before that tutorial. I figured out a way to put a sound box into a set of ears, so...
One stormy night long ago, 5 people stepped through the door of an elevator into a nightmare.
Okay, so I might have had to cut the sound short because I don't want to get dinged for copyright. But I'm not selling these. They're for me. So these are made of a burgundy velvet material. They do have heat transfer vinyl pressed onto them, so you will need a Cricut or a Silhouette to do this unless you are comfortable hand painting. And then I have the service elevator little dial thing. I made a little miniature bellhop hat. This is my favorite thing on here. And then I did the Hollywood Tower Hotel logo, and then literally, you guys, in like the last 2 seconds of this video, you're gonna see me accidentally get hot glue on the bottom of the velvet. It's very upsetting. And then they are just plain on the back, but they have the sound box featured in this ear. And then they have a gold rope trim. I love these ears. I think that they came out really cute. Honestly, I would venture to say these are some of my favorites that I've ever made. I've made a lot of ears. So if you guys love Tower of Terror as much as I do, or if you are just curious how I got the sound box in here because you have your own idea of how to incorporate that into a different design, then just keep watching. So I don't show the portion of the project where I work in the software for my Silhouette machine because my computer cannot handle trying to screen record. And if I record with my camera, you can't see it anyway. So I did cut out the service elevator decal first out of this glow-in-the-dark heat transfer vinyl. I will link this for you guys down below in the supply section if you want to get the same kind that I had. But I cut 2 versions of it. So I cut one in glitter heat transfer vinyl in gold and one in the glow-in-the-dark white. Now, the glow-in-the-dark white one, sorry, I know I'm like adjusting the camera, doesn't have all of the letters and stuff cut out. Only the gold one needed to do that because, as you can see here, the glow-in-the-dark vinyl is going to show through the back. Before I heat press these onto the velvet fabric, I'm going to turn it over on the back side and trace out my ear cutting line template. You're going to need 4 of these, so just using the largest template that I have linked down below for you guys, trace 4 of those onto the back of your fabric and then go ahead and cut them out. Next, using the smallest template that I have linked down below for you guys, the foam and batting template, you're going to want to trace 4 of these onto some cardboard and cut the cardboard out as well. So after cutting out the cardboard portions of the ear, you're going to take the sound box that I do have linked down below for you guys, and you're going to trace this in the center of one of those cardboard ears. And then using an X-Acto knife, I'm just going to cut out the circle that I traced. After checking it, I saw that I needed to shave it down a little bit more, so I'm just using my X-Acto knife to take out some more cardboard and then making sure that that sound box fits nice and snug but does not bend the cardboard of the ear. To reinforce this ear and make sure that it's not going to bend, I am going to cut the same size hole out of one of the other cardboard Mickey ears that we cut out. So I just used the first one as a template, traced that circle, and then using my X-Acto knife, I'm going to cut that circle out as well. And then just like the first time, you're going to want to double check it and make sure that the sound box fits in nicely, but your cardboard isn't bending or compromising, if that makes sense, as you're fitting in the sound box. If you guys watch my channel a lot, you know that I don't love to use polyfill on my ears anymore. I have a different way of making them, but for this particular set, it is what's necessary. So using hot glue, we're going to attach the fabric directly to that cardboard ear. So you're just going to want to do thin lines of hot glue and then very gently pull your fabric to tap into the hot glue. For this set, make sure that you're not pulling the fabric too tight because you do need space in the ear for the sound box as well as the polyfill to cover it up so that you can't tell that there's an object inside the ear. And make sure that you do not glue the bottom just yet because we are going to be using polyfill to stuff these. You're going to repeat these steps. So I'm finishing off the ear that has the sound box in it. So obviously I'm only using the design on one of these, and then the other one was just a plain fabric ear. Before continuing on, I am double checking it one more time just to make sure that the sound box sandwiches nicely between these two ears and that I don't have any attachment issues. Next, we're going to start stuffing the ear. So I'm just pulling polyfill and trying to space it around the sound box and just a teeny bit on top of it because I do want my ear to have a rounded look where it doesn't look like there's a button behind the logo, if that makes sense. By the way, I am so sorry for my croaky voice. It is very, very early in the morning when I'm voicing this over. But after stuffing it, then you can go ahead and close up the bottom. I do like to cut off the excess fabric just because it makes it easier on me to glue down. And then adding a line of hot glue, I'm just going to fold the fabric over and tap it down into the glue. I'm going to continue stuffing the other side, and then this part can be a little bit tricky because you do have to leave a gap for the sound box so that you can close up the ear properly. But using that hole in the middle, I'm just kind of creating almost like a donut. And then I'm just double checking it to make sure that it's stuffed correctly before I go in with glue. So I was like kind of a ding dong there because I started to just glue the two halves together and realized I hadn't closed up the bottom of the other one. So I'm very quickly trying to close up the bottom of the second ear, or the other half of the first ear, I should say. And then I'm going to apply a pretty good amount of hot glue around that sound box and firmly press these two together and make sure that I'm holding them tight enough where the glue has time to set. For the trim on these ears, I decided to do this gold rope trim. You can actually get this in the Christmas section at Hobby Lobby on sale right now. But I'm just adding a thin line of hot glue around the rim of the ear, and then I'm gently pressing down this trim into the hot glue. Now, I will tell you guys to leave yourself a little tail because this trim, unfortunately, frays really, really badly. Like, it immediately starts to unwind as you're working with it. So I'm gluing it down, but I'm leaving excess on the end so that I can cut it off and burn the edges to seal the trim. So now that I have it all glued on, I'm going to go ahead and cut off what's extra on the other side. And then very carefully with a lighter, I'm just going to seal those edges. And this is what the first ear looks like. And this one is the harder one because it's got the sound box in it. For the second ear, I wanted to show you guys a little trick I figured out. So I was having trouble keeping this design centered on this side for some reason. So I used these little clips from Dollar Tree that I had on hand and clipped the fabric down while I glued the sides. This helped me keep it centered on the cardboard and not shift where it would look a little bit off. So, little hack there. But we're just going to attach the fabric the same way that we did on the first ear, thin lines of hot glue, and then gently tap down your fabric into the hot glue, leaving the bottom open because we are going to be stuffing these as well. So same as before, take some polyfill. I do like to pull my polyfill apart before putting it in. I think it helps it not bunch up and get kind of lumpy. And then after filling it to your heart's desire, I definitely would suggest comparing it to the other set that you already made before gluing it shut, because you want to make sure that the two ears look like they're the same fullness. And that is a little bit trickier because one of them has the sound box and one of them doesn't. All right, now for my favorite part, making the hat. So my daughter had a Toy Story birthday party, and I had these leftover Buzz Lightyear cups. So I am going to be cutting this in half, and this is going to be the base of our little hat that we'll be making. You can use any kind of cup, but I definitely would suggest more of a coated paper cup than a plastic one, because I think like a red Solo cup or something might crack while you're trying to work with it, whereas this was more bendable. So as you can see here, I'm using my X-Acto knife just to give myself a nice even bottom. Now, before we attach the ears, I am going to finish making the hat. So in order to cover the hat, I decided the best thing to do was to cover the top of this cup first. So I am just putting the cup onto my fabric, the same fabric I used for the ears, and just very gently tracing it with a marker. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Now, I did want this to be wider than the actual base of the cup, so I kind of over outlined it and even overcut it a little bit. And the reason for that was because I wanted to make sure that I could glue this down over the top to get a really nice clean edge. So I'm going to be doing hot glue on the edge of the cup and then tapping the fabric down into the hot glue and working my way all the way around the top of the cup first. Now, instead of doing hot glue in one big circle, I actually worked across from myself. So I would glue down a portion of the velvet and then I would go across the cup and glue the opposite side down, and then I would continue working kind of in like an X pattern. So if I was gluing down a small section, the next section that I glued would be across from itself, and that just helped me avoid any kind of weird puckering in the fabric or having too much excess when I was done. So this next portion is how we're going to cover up the sides, and to measure it, I just rolled the cup across the fabric and made sure that it was a long enough length. And then I am going to do a false hemline, which is where I just do a line of hot glue and fold over the edge into the hot glue. This prevents the fabric from fraying and makes it to where I don't have to pull out my sewing machine. So I am just folding over the edge of my fabric and making it a nice clean edge. This portion is going to be meeting up against the top of the hat, and that's what's going to give us a really clean look on this little cup hat. So we are just going to do a thin vertical line and then tap down the fabric. And obviously the fabric that I have here is going to wrap around the rest of the hat. Now, as you can see, my fabric is too long right now, and that's okay. But I'm just going to work in small sections at a time, focusing at the top. So I'm doing thin lines of hot glue on the rim of the hat, and then I'm just pulling the fabric across and tapping it down into the glue. And I'm trying really, really hard not to be messy when I do this, because any type of hot glue exposed on the fabric is going to be really hard to clean up. And now I'm just cutting off the excess fabric, and then I will tack down what's left with hot glue. I did want to show this to you guys because I got a little bit too messy with mine, and you can see kind of like hot glue at the top there, which does stink, but we are going to cover it with some trim later on. Now for the bottom of the hat, this portion is so much easier because we're actually just going to tuck it down into the cup. And before attaching them, we will glue that fabric down, but first I'm going to go ahead and attach my ears. I do have my ear spacing template that I'm using here linked down below for you guys. It's free to use for you know, making ears at your house. But
I'm just using this to make sure that I get a really good spacing. I did go ahead and measure this time around, and it's about 2¼ inch between the two ears. But I just like to apply a pretty good amount of hot glue. It's kind of hard to tell you guys exactly how much because it depends how thick your ears ended up. But you want enough to where you have a nice solid hold on the ear, but not so much that it's going to ooze out of the bottom and create mess. So I'm just going to firmly hold this down and allow my glue to totally set. Now going back to the hat, I just wanted to test it out before I glued the fabric down on it because I wanted to make sure that I didn't need to cut the hat down anymore. But it was the right size and everything, so now I'm going to do small amounts of hot glue and just tap the fabric down onto the inside of this little cup to finish off the edges. For some added detail, I pulled out a black satin ribbon that I have from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue this down to the center of the hat. I did go ahead and measure it out and cut the strip of ribbon that I needed, and then I am using a lighter to burn my edges so that it seals the edge of the ribbon and I'm not worried about it fraying or anything. So after sealing the edge, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue to tack this down. I'm not gluing down the entire ribbon. I really only glued it down in 3 spots. So it was just a spot to start with, a spot to keep it centered, and then obviously the ending, I need to glue down the end of the ribbon. Again, lighting the edge to seal it, and then just doing a very thin amount of hot glue before I tack down the edge of the ribbon. Using this gold kind of braided trim that I have from Hobby Lobby, I'm going to be adding this to the edges of the black ribbon. I just thought it gave it a nice finished look. And I'm just using small amounts of hot glue, very thin lines, and just wrapping my ribbon around the hat and just tapping it really gently with my hand. My finger, I should say. I'm going to be doing this on the top and the bottom portion of the black ribbon. And now you have a little bellhop hat for your ears. Now, full disclosure, I am going to have to kind of squeeze this between the ears, but I actually really like doing that because it did make it to where I was able to keep the shape that I wanted on the hat. Now, to actually glue it down, you are going to have to put glue right up next to the ear and push the hat down into the glue and probably reinforce it a little bit in different spots. Once you have a good hold, though, it's not really going anywhere unless you really want to rip it off. Now this is where I messed up my ears, so I did decide to add the gold rope trim to the bottom of the ear. I really liked the finished look that it gave them, and unfortunately this is when my hot glue gun dragged across the fabric of the ear and left some hot glue residue. So it's not the end of the world, but it did frustrate me for sure because I was so close to being done. Now to do this trim, I'm just doing a really thin line of hot glue, and then I just wrap the trim around the back, do a thin line of hot glue, and then cut off the excess. Once I had the ribbon glued down, again, I pulled out my lighter just to try to seal the edges as best I could. And then it did give it a really nice finished look on the bottom, so I went ahead and did it on the other side as well. And that's when I ruined this ear. Dang hot glue gun. But I am very happy with how these turned out. I think the sound box is such a cool addition. Now, I definitely could have added trim to the top of the hat in order to cover up that little glue spot, but I just didn't love how it looked, so I decided not to. And nobody can really see that little glue spot except for me. And then I did want to show you guys this idea that I had. I had these little gears on hand, and I thought it would be so cute to glue them on and make like a little hidden Mickey on the back. But I just couldn't commit to it. Like I could not, I just couldn't I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to glue this on because I wasn't 100% positive that I loved it, but I still wanted to show you guys in case this is something that you super duper love. So again, I just laid the little gears out like a little hidden Mickey, and then if I was you, I would glue them on the back if that's something that you're wanting, just for a little added touch of magic.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please check out my other ear tutorials. I have a lot. I'm pretty sure at this point I'm definitely over 70. I might be over 80 tutorials at this point of different ear designs, different character inspirations, different everything. Some of them light up, some of them are wire ears. So whatever you're looking for, I might have something that can help you. And if you guys are curious for my other content, I will leave a couple playlists linked down below for you guys. I do unboxings, hauls, shop with me's, all kinds of Disney related and a little bit of not Disney related content. So if you guys are new to my channel, please subscribe. It would be so helpful to me and my channel, and I would really, really appreciate it. And ring the notification bell so that you don't miss out on the next video that I upload. Follow me over on Instagram. And also, if you wouldn't mind checking out my Etsy shop, I will have that linked down below, along with showing you guys my little logo. He's cute. Bye, guys.